Mark, we do stay with us, gentlemen. We have further updates. Protests have continued outside Windsor Castle as US President Donald Trump has arrived for his second visit. Supporters and protesters gathered in large numbers, with the CEO of Friends of Trump UK calling it historic. Let's listen in to some of the protesters and supporters alike.
I'm here today because we are making history. Nobody thought it could be possible. In 2020, when President Trump was rigged out, the whole world thought that we are finished. We're not going to come back. But we never relent.
People say that we have to do it because obviously he's the President of the United States, but I don't think that we should be aligning ourselves politically with someone with these morals and values. I think what he's done and what he's doing in his own country is deplorable. I think, there's right and wrong, and right is a free Palestine, women that have autonomy over their own body, and leaders that don't behave the way he does. I think it's pretty simple, and I'm 100% against it.
He himself, a narcissistic Stone Age person, okay? He don't care for protocol, he don't care for the kings, he don't care for the government, he don't care for United States, he don't care for anything apart from himself, okay? For him, it's like a television show for the...
Okay, this follows a protest earlier in the day, which turned controversial when the Led by Donkeys group projected images of Trump and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein onto Windsor Castle. The video montage, which included Trump's mugshot and footage of Epstein, was displayed shortly before Trump's arrival. Police arrested 4 individuals on suspicion of malicious communications following the stunt. Mark, I want to start with you this time. What do today's protests reveal about Trump's polarizing image in Britain? We know that America, of course, a hugely polarizing country when it comes to its politics. However, the same sort of turnout, of course not as much, but the same sort of turnout for the president in the UK, both supporters and protesters alike.
I'd actually say to you what it'd be interesting to discuss what you mean by the polarization of politics within America. And I re-emphasize this. There are many, many people in this country that are the huge supporters of President 47. When there is reference made to the 2020 presidential election, there is a long story to say there in regard to, we could say, that was stolen. There is a long history and evidence to lay on the table for that, as much as that goes against a narrative within our own media within the UK. There's a lot to expand. One of the protests was probably very interesting, listening to some of those voices, because I would turn around, I wish I could actually be in front of them and actually say, what do you really mean? What do you mean? Let's just drill down. Okay. Because if the protests are about the fact that you have a President 47, President of the United States, that actually believes in strong borders, that actually believes in putting his country first and putting the American people first, then actually, as a nation state, I would turn around and say, what is actually wrong with that? Because that's certainly not being reflected within the UK. And I do find it rather interesting that projected a face of Trump, of Epstein. We've just had the recent, Mr. Mandelson, who was the ambassador, who's now had to resign because of his own relationship with Epstein as well in regard to that friendship. Thomas.
Yes, Keith, I wanted to bring you in here. The same question goes to you. We've obviously heard a group of protesters there, both supporting and protesting against the visit of the US president. When Donald Trump first came to office, all we seem to hear of is the protests against him. Now his support in the United Kingdom seems to be growing. What are your thoughts about that, Keith?
Well, he's not a politician in this country, therefore he's never going to become Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, but he is one of the most famous men in the world. He is the most powerful man in the world, and he's just against all odds. After all, he had 34 felonies against him, and a lot of the media against him in America. He's managed to win the popular vote and become president again. So he has proved that he is the democratically elected president of the most powerful nation on earth. So, of course, he's going to have detractors, and of course, he's going to have supporters. But at the end of the day, for the British people, where do we go? We've come out of the EU, and therefore we can't be pals with them in the way in which we had in the past. We have to look for new markets and new friends. And the best friend that we could possibly have is the United States, because they have the biggest economy on earth. So we can't do business with the Russians because nobody's supposed to. China is always going to be suspect for the UK for whatever reason. And Trump is the only game in town. So what Keir Starmer is doing is he's listening to his officials and his advice, who say, be nice to Trump, treat him very respectfully. He is all those things, president of the biggest and most powerful nation on earth, and maybe we can get an even better deal than the one we had in the past. It's politics. I mean,
Yes.
You have to do this, I'm afraid. If the boot was on the other foot and Russia was not invading, as they have done, Ukraine, and Putin was running around, I can remember when I was Minister for Europe, we lavished Putin with attention when he came when I was Minister for Europe. I was Minister for Russia, in fact. I never got to meet him because Tony Blair was spending all his time with him. So Britain is very good at this kind of thing. What's in the national interest? What's going to get us a better deal? How are we going to get out of this problem of the debts that we have? Let's be very, very nice to the president. And that's what they're trying to do.
Yes, Keith, Vaz and Mark Sutherland, thank you very much for joining us here on the programme. Pleasure to have you both, as always. We now move on over to West Asia, where Israeli Foreign Minister